When I came of age, I tossed the embroidered ball to choose a husband. Cui Zhao caught it, and we married, spending our lives as husband and wife, who respected each other like newlyweds. There was truly nothing in this life I regretted until his deathbed confession echoed in my ears. He said, "That year, when the Chen family held the ball-tossing event, I thought the one throwing the ball was your elder sister. If there is a next life, could you let her throw it instead? Just so he could pass in peace," I agreed. And so, when I opened my eyes again, I handed the embroidered ball in my grasp straight to my elder sister. She was overjoyed, nearly beside herself. Then she tossed it toward Cui Zhao's father. The ball landed neatly in his hands. Chen Qingyu beamed with delight. She hurried to share her secret with me. My only two criteria for picking a husband are simple: looks and build. Cui Ming may not have a face like jade, but those sword-like brows and starry eyes, that dignified bearing? He trains in martial arts year-round, stands over 6 feet tall, and just looking at him gives off an incredible sense of security. Most importantly, cough. My elder sister gave 2 light coughs, afraid someone might overhear. She hid her face behind her fan, but her expression made it clear she found him quite virile. In my previous life, I had already been married and consummated the marriage, so of course I understood exactly what she meant. Still, I hesitated. He was a widower, already 32, and his son was nearly as old as we were. "Elder sister, have you really thought this through?" Chen Qingyu, however, thought he was perfect. She listed every advantage. Cui Ming might be a widower, but he had never taken a second wife or any concubines. He had raised his only son single-handedly, which proved what a good man he was. Besides, he had gone to the battlefield early in life. His body was strong and sturdy, and he was probably still quite capable. Compared to those pampered, useless young lords in the capital, he was far superior. After Chen Qingyu finished speaking, she seemed to remember something and quickly grabbed my hand, glancing toward Cui Zhao beside us. "Have you seen him? He looks like he'd melt away in the rain. His legs aren't even as thick as his father's arms, and he's so slender a gust of wind could blow him over." She grew more anxious the more she spoke, reminding me again and again. I nodded to every point. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. She turned to look down from the embroidery tower. Cui Ming still held the ball, standing there somewhat awkwardly. Chen Qingyu kept smiling at him without pause. I, on the other hand, looked toward Cui Zhao. After all, we had once been husband and wife for a lifetime. I had thought that in my last life I had been the one who broke apart a loving pair, preventing 2 people who were meant to be together from uniting. Who could have guessed that the person he had longed for his entire life was Chen Qingye? Yet in her eyes, he had never existed. She had even thrown the ball to his father. Cui Zhao clearly had not anticipated this twist and found it hard to accept. Everyone else was stunned into silence. No one had expected that Duke Kui, who had only come to watch his son compete for the ball, would end up catching it himself. My fault. I shouldn't have rushed over to see my future daughter-in-law. With every gaze in the crowd landing on him, the embroidered ball suddenly felt like a burning hot potato in Cui Ming's hands. He forced a smile that looked worse than crying. After all, the age gap was enormous, and standing right beside him was his own young, handsome son, Cui Zhao. Someone quickly asked, "Miss Chen, perhaps you misaimed? That ball was surely meant for the heir, Cui Zhao." Those words lit a spark of hope in Cui Zhao's eyes, which had been as dead as ashes. He did not even wait for my elder sister to speak before he immediately declared his feelings. "First, young Miss Chen, since the ball has been thrown to me, I accept it. I will come to the Chen family to propose at once. I did not misaim." Chen Qingyu frowned and cut him off. She planted both hands on the railing, leaned forward slightly, and smiled radiantly down at Cui Zhao below. "Would I make a poor mother-in-law for you?" Cui Zhao's face turned deathly pale, then flushed, then pale again. I had never seen him look so utterly despairing. Even in my previous life, when he had happily caught my ball and been invited up to the tower, only to discover the thrower was not my elder sister but me, he had not looked half as devastated as he did now. Back then I had followed custom and hidden my face behind a fan, yet I still could not resist lifting my eyes to appraise the man before me. The eldest son of the Cui family, Cui Zhao, devastatingly handsome, gentle in temperament, and exceptionally talented. He was the husband every noble daughter in the capital dreamed of, so when I learned that he had caught my ball, my heart had soared with joy. But he held the ball with no trace of pleasure on his face, as if he were unwilling. I was deeply puzzled. If he did not want to marry me, why had he entered the arena to compete for the ball? The embroidered ball contest was said to follow heaven's will, yet my parents would never have let us marry just anyone. The embroidery tower had been newly built, surrounded by high walls. Every man allowed inside had already sent his name card to the Chen family in advance. My parents had carefully investigated each candidate's character, reputation, and appearance before deciding whether to grant them entry. In other words, every man standing beneath the tower today was someone willing to marry me, or more precisely, willing to marry the young miss of the Chen family. That was why I could not understand why he looked so unhappy after catching the ball. Could it be that he found my appearance lacking? Both young misses of the Chen family in the capital were renowned for their beauty. If that were the case, his standards were impossibly high. I had no desire to force anyone into an unwanted match, so I asked him directly, "Young Sui, do you not wish to marry me? If not, we can pretend my hand slipped just now. Consider the marriage between us cancelled. My parents adored both me and my elder sister. If I rejected the outcome, father would at most scold me with a cold face and make me kneel in the ancestral hall for one night. Afterward, he would grumble while going out to smooth everything over for me. Therefore, I was not worried at all. All I needed was one honest sentence from Cui Zhao, because this concerned my future." Chen Qingye stood beside me then, thoroughly displeased. "You caught the ball and yet you wear such a reluctant expression. Are you trying to make people think the daughters of the Chen family are easy to bully? How shameless." Cui Zhao hastily shook his head and told me, "Since I have caught the young Mrs. Ball, I naturally must marry her. So you do wish to marry me?" I used the word wish. I hoped he would be willing from the bottom of his heart. He was famous for his talent and intelligence. He could not have failed to catch the meaning behind my words. Yet he still answered, "Yes, I wish to marry her. It is my desire, my willingness. Our hearts will be in harmony, and I will be overjoyed." Only many years later did I learn the truth. He had never wanted to marry me at all. He simply feared he would appear utterly shameless in Chen Qingyue's eyes, so he swallowed his pain and agreed to the marriage. Even so, Cuizhou never treated me poorly. On our wedding night, he handed over the household keys and the steward to me. The servants in the mansion all showed me great respect. Every 1st and 15th of the month, he would come to my chambers for dinner. Everything seemed perfect, impossibly so, but he did not love me, and without love he turned a blind eye to my every grievance. Cui Zhao had an aunt who had always wanted to marry her own daughter to him as his principal wife. Naturally, she was dissatisfied with me. Disliking me, she used her position as a senior in the Cui household to bully me. I told Cui Zhao about it, but he showed me no pity. He merely said, "Aunt has treated me like her own since I was small. You have few relatives, Shuangyu. Please endure it a little." With Cui Zhao's backing, the aunt grew even bolder. Every 2 or 3 days she would pick a fight with me. When I could no longer bear it, and finally raised my hand against her, both of us ended up injured. Cui Zhao came looking for me. The moment he stepped through the door, he demanded, "Aunt is your elder, Shuangyu. How could you push her?" Before he finished speaking, he noticed the scar on my face. That scar had been left when the aunt, hoping to make Cui Zhao despise me, had pulled the hairpin from her bun and tried to slash my face while I was off guard. Seeing the scar, Cui Zhao fell silent. There was not the slightest trace of heartache in his eyes, only cold calculation of gain and loss. And how best to comfort me so I would not run home crying to my parents over this scar and cause my family to side with me. Cui Zhao sighed. "This time aunt went too far. I will discipline her. Just apply the medicine properly." At that moment I stared at him in silence, desperately hoping to see even a flicker of tenderness for me in his eyes. There was none. Without love, how could there be tenderness? In the end I was still deluding myself, yet I refused to give up. I asked him, "When you saw me injured, did your heart ache even a little?" Cui Zhao remained silent. He apologized and left my courtyard. That evening, he personally brought me many rare treasures and told me he had sent his aunt back to the countryside. I understood his meaning. I was still his wife in name. Preserving my dignity also preserved his own. He would protect me, but he would never love me. That day the rain poured down and thunder roared. I had feared thunder since childhood. My mother loved me, so she would hold me in her arms. My father doted on me, so he would stay by my side. Even my unreliable elder sister Chen Qingye loved me. She would crawl under my quilt with a blanket, imitating an adult by gently patting my back and soothing me in a soft voice. But Cui Zhao only said, "Close the windows tightly so you don't catch a chill." I told him I was truly terrified. He turned his face away, his tone calm. "You have several maids from your maiden home. They can stay with you." In the end, my heart died completely. Husband and wife could live a lifetime in mutual respect or in passionate entanglement. Either way, it was still a lifetime. From then on, I withdrew every ounce of affection I had for him. I simply became Madame Quay, keeping a courteous distance from him for the rest of our days. Yet at the very end he told me the person in his heart had always been my elder sister. When he spoke of her, endless tenderness flooded his eyes. Suddenly everything felt meaningless, so I agreed. If there were a next life, I would yield the embroidered ball to my elder sister. But if there truly were a next life, I, Chen Shuangyu, would never marry him again. Fortunately, heaven had given us a real chance to start over. Only this time, Cuizhao still could not have his wish. The embroidered ball contest had ended. Next came the discussion of the wedding date with the man who had caught it. Chen Qingyu sent someone to invite Cui Mingge up to the tower. His son Cuizhao was invited along as well. The moment Cui Mingge saw Chen Qingyu, he hurriedly spoke. "This old man is advanced in years and unworthy of becoming your husband." With that, he tried to return the embroidered ball to her. Chen Qingyu did not reach out to take it. She merely sighed softly, looking sorrowful. Our Chen family does not force anyone when choosing a son-in-law, nor do we specify which young miss will marry. You caught the ball, yet now you wish to change your mind. Are you saying I am unworthy of you? Cui Mingge shook his head frantically. I am a rough martial man and not as eloquent as your elder sister. I can only explain in haste. Today I came only to watch whether my son could catch the ball. I never considered remarrying. If the young miss is determined to marry me, you will be the one who suffers, but I am willing. Chen Qingyu smiled and stepped closer. Cui Ming retreated in alarm. I do not mind that you are older. I think you are wonderful. Since you caught my ball, you are my husband. She finished, then tilted her head to look at Cuizhao beside him. Cuizhao was staring at her. First, young Miss Chen, my father has no intention of remarrying. If the Chen family feels the Cui family owes an explanation, I am willing to marry you as my wife. Moreover, I vow never to take any concubines in this life, nor to have any children outside the marriage. I only wish to be your son-in-law. Chen Qingyu laughed and cut him off. She pointed at herself. Young Herzwei, I am quite good. If I become your stepmother, I will treat you as my own. Later I can give you younger brothers and sisters, so the household will be even livelier. Hearing this, Cuizhao's face grew even paler. Cui Mingge beside him fared no better. He simply looked up and sighed, utterly helpless. Elder sister, stop teasing Duke Kui and the young heir. Seeing the atmosphere turn awkward, I quickly tugged Chen Qingyu's sleeve. After all, we had been sisters for over 10 years. I knew her well. She had a sharp tongue and loved to tease, but her love and hate were clear. Even if she truly fancied Cui Mingxe, she would never force him if he refused. What she wanted was for Cui Mingxe to propose willingly. She might use a few clever tricks along the way, I was not entirely sure, but right now I had to get her home. Our parents must have already heard about the commotion on the tower and were probably furious. Better to return early, kowtow, and apologize. At worst we would kneel in the ancestral hall for one night and avoid the rod. It hurt too much. Chen Qingyu understood. She smiled at Cui Minghe. If you truly do not wish to marry me, I cannot force you into the wedding. But the days are long, perhaps you will change your mind someday? With that, she took my hand and left the embroidery tower. First, young Miss Chen, Cuizhao chased after us. His expression was grave, as though he had something extremely important to say. In his hand he clutched an old, yellowed sheet of paper that looked many years old. Chen Qingyu first ordered the maids to prepare the carriage downstairs and disperse the crowd. Only then did she speak. Herr Cui, is there something you wish to say to me? Cuizhao did not answer at once. Instead he glanced toward me. I lowered my eyes and tried to pull my hand from Chen Qingyu's, intending to leave first so they could speak privately. But she gripped my hand even tighter. Shuang's is my younger sister, there is nothing she cannot hear. If the heir does not wish to speak, then never mind. She pulled me onward down the stairs. Cuizhao hurriedly called out. When I was 7, I accompanied my father to a banquet. Several boys my age bullied me, saying I had brought misfortune to my mother, and that I carried murderous energy. I fought them, got injured, and hid in the artificial mountain out of fear my father would find out. I missed my mother so much I cried. Chen Qingyu found him baffling, but my heart gave a violent lurch. Cuizhao did not notice my reaction. He unfolded the paper, revealing the portrait inside. The girl in the painting was Chen Qingyu at 6 years old. Cuizhao gazed at the portrait, lost in thought. His eyes overflowed with unspoken deep affection. So much time had passed, I no longer clearly remembered the little girl's appearance. Fortunately, she had left this painting behind. Even after 10 years, I recognized her at once. Chen Qingyu glanced at the portrait and said 4 cold words, then took my hand and left the tower. This time Cui Zhao did not chase after us. He simply stood there, staring obsessively at Chen Qingyue's retreating figure until we boarded the carriage. Even then, her tightly knitted brows did not relax. That painting looked strangely familiar, I thought, but I dared not speak. I sat quietly beside her. Chen Qingyue closed her eyes for a moment, then suddenly opened them and rapped me hard on the forehead. Chen Shuangyu, it was fine that you drew his mother to comfort him, but why did you draw my face? Sure enough, she had guessed it was me. That year I was only 5. I had gone with my parents to the banquet and found a young boy crying inside the rockery. Blood stained the corner of his mouth, his clothes were torn, and he huddled in the corner muttering, "I miss mother. I miss her so much it hurts." He looked so pitiful. I had already learned to draw portraits quite well by then, so I comforted him. I told him I could draw his mother's likeness, so that looking at the picture might ease his longing. Later my mother came looking for me and I left. I was still young and easily distracted. The moment Chen Qingyu saw me, she wanted to take me flower picking, and I forgot the whole thing. So many years had passed. Without Cui Zhao's reminder, I probably never would have remembered. Who could have guessed that the little boy from back then was Cui Zhao? It really was fate. Chen Qingyu sighed. I tugged the corner of my mouth, finding it rather funny. You call it fate? More like a karmic debt. She rapped my forehead again and asked through gritted teeth. But you still haven't told me. Why did you draw my face? Because he said his mother was a fairy, and back then you kept telling me you were a fairy descended to the mortal realm. You even made me kowtow every time we met. I figured one fairy looked much like another, so I drew your face. After all, I was only 5. Who knew that Chen Qingyue's fairy was self-proclaimed? All the times I knelt to you, all the wishes I prayed for, none of them came true. You big liar. Facing my resentful gaze, Chen Qingyu looked to change the subject. So he mistook me for you. I nodded. No wonder in my previous life I had racked my brains and still could not figure out when he and Chen Qingyu had met. That profound, unregrettable love had come from nothing more than a single painting. I had even sincerely offered to become his mother-in-law, and he had looked as if he had been struck by lightning. So he had mistaken the person. He thought I was the little girl he had longed for, never realizing it was actually you. He really is blind, she laughed. Inside the carriage, Chen Qingyue laughed until she nearly fell over. Then she leaned close. Shuang, tell me honestly, do you like the heir Cui? No, my answer was firm and decisive. In my previous life I had willingly married Cui Zhao, mostly because he had caught my ball-clear proof of heaven's match. Add in his handsome face, literary talent, and status as the heir, and marrying him had seemed like it would bring me no hardship. If I had to call it liking, perhaps there had been a trace of it in the beginning. But as the days passed and I realized he did not care for me, I let it die. I simply resolved to live with him in mutual respect. That lifetime had been too calm. Whatever small affection I once felt had long been worn away by the endless years. So I teased her back. Elder sister, rest assured, I will never become your daughter-in-law. Chen Qingyu laughed along with me. What a pity. I still wanted to raise Shuang like my own daughter once. Then she wiped the smile from her face and grew far more serious. Shuang, don't blame me for speaking too much. I've observed Cui Zhao carefully. His appearance and character are fine, but his body is too frail. He won't endure much hardship. I'm afraid he's all show and no substance, and he may not be able to father children. She finished and rubbed her own head in vexation. What am I even saying? Shuang has only just come of age. How could she understand such things? I dared not reply. I only felt my ears burn. I had already lived one lifetime. Naturally, I understood the deeper meaning behind her words. They were far too bold. Yet Chen Qingyu was not wrong. In my previous life, Cui Zhao and I had been husband and wife. Though we had respected each other like strangers, we had still performed the marital rites. Yet I had never conceived. I had consulted a physician, who said my body was perfectly healthy and fertile. Therefore the problem lay with Cui Zhao. I could not help admiring Chen Qingyu. Her judgment of people was truly sharp. If I remarried in the future, I would definitely seek her advice. When we arrived home, Chen Qingyu and I were scolded exactly as expected. The moment father learned I had given the ball to my elder sister, who had then thrown it to Duke Kui, a man who had a son the same age as hers, mustache bristled with rage. Mother sat on her chair, repeatedly stroking her chest to calm her breathing. Concubine Liu kept sighing. After a long while, mother walked over and pinched my arm. Chen Shuangyu, today was the auspicious day you were supposed to throw the ball and choose a husband. How dare you cause such chaos? Then she rapped Chen Qingyu on the head. And you, Chen Qingyu, I specially asked a great master to read your fortune. He said this year you were not suited for marriage, so I postponed your betrothal and planned to let you throw the ball next year. Why didn't you listen? Faced with mother's scolding, neither of us dared lift our heads or speak. We were terrified that one extra word would make her faint from anger. We shrank like frightened quails while the three of them took turns berating us. Finally, father waved his hand. The two of you, go kneel in the ancestral hall. You're used to it by now. The moment the main door closed, Chen Qingyue and I first kowtowed before the ancestral tablets. Then we dragged the cushions closer, leaned bonelessly against each other, and felt perfectly comfortable. Elder sister, I forgot to eat lunch. I'm starving now. I rubbed my empty stomach. Chen Qingyu immediately sprang up from the cushion and slipped behind the ancestral tablets. When she returned, she carried 2 baked flatbreads. She handed one to me, good thing I prepared ahead of time. We come here several times a month, so I secretly stashed some flatbreads here long ago. They keep well, and once a month is enough to keep me from starving. I could not help giving her a thumbs up. Truly the devil of the Chen family. You've even gained experience from kneeling in the ancestral hall and prepared in advance. Chen Qingyue basked in the flattery. She lifted her chin proudly and began praising me in return. Shuangshuang is very clever too. Knowing we often get punished here, you specially had someone replace the kneeling cushions with softer ones. It's so comfortable. I laughed and waved my hand, refusing the credit, then started munching on the flatbread. Elder sister, why do you want to marry Cui Minghe? He is a duke, his status is noble. Even our parents must bow when they meet him. The age difference isn't a problem. If he passes early, I'll remain chaste for him. When Cuizhao becomes the new duke, he will still have to treat me with respect. Filial piety is paramount. Any delicious food or fun entertainment, he would have to offer me a share first. Hearing Chen Qingyue's explanation, I still felt puzzled. If elder sister values Cui Minghe's status, why not marry Cuizhao? He is the heir and future duke. His position is equally noble, and he is the same age as you. Wouldn't that be better? Chen Qingyue shook her head. He is still too young. Sweet oaths and promises mean nothing now. What if he later meets a woman he truly loves and favors her while neglecting his wife? Besides, if Cuizhao cannot father children, society will not blame him. They will say I am useless. If he dies young, Cui Minghe will naturally take another wife to continue the bloodline. I would become superfluous. How could life be comfortable? She finished and rested her head on my shoulder, tilting her face up slightly. There was a trace of tension in her eyes. Shuang, do you think I'm too greedy for glory? I set the flatbread down and hugged her. I admire elder sister. I admire how clearly you know what you want and live with such clarity. In my previous life, Chen Qingyu had lived with the same clarity. Because I had married Cuizhao, she gave up on Cui Minghe and chose to enter the palace instead. From a minor talent, she gradually rose to become the current imperial noble consort. At the time, I had also entered the palace to keep her company. She had gained the power she desired, yet she was not truly happy because the imperial palace would forever rob a person of freedom. Chen Qingyue was the greediest person I knew. She wanted power, she wanted freedom, and she wanted the man she chose to never betray her. Young men could not be trusted, so she would choose an older one who would die sooner, ideally one who already had a son. If Cui Minghe suddenly encountered some woman he thought as beautiful as a fairy and insisted on bringing her home, indulging her and allowing her to bully elder sister, then what? I would simply give him a bowl of medicine. He was already advanced in years. A sudden death would raise no suspicions. When she spoke those words, not the slightest hesitation appeared in Chen Qingyue's eyes. It reminded me of my previous life, when the old emperor had returned from a private excursion with a woman from the pleasure quarters. Not only did he elevate her to consort, he allowed her to run wild in the rear palace, throwing the entire harem into chaos. Chen Qingyu had also been targeted by that woman several times. Not only did the old emperor do nothing to stop it, he even accused her of being jealous. Furious, Qingyu summoned me into the palace and cursed the old emperor in front of me for several hours straight without stopping. Not long after that, the old emperor passed away very suddenly. Rumors spread throughout the court and the capital that the woman from the pleasure quarters had carried some filthy disease, which she transmitted to the old emperor, causing his hasty death. Once he died and the new emperor ascended the throne, Chen Qingyu became the noble imperial consort dowager. The woman from the pleasure house who had bullied her fell completely into her hands. She repaid every grudge and returned every kindness. Thinking back on it now, the old emperor's sudden death in my previous life might not have been unrelated to Chen Qingyue. After all, she was more than capable of doing such a thing. I pulled my thoughts back and looked at Chen Qingyu beside me, unable to help feeling a surge of emotion. I really don't live as clearly as she does. If I had known earlier, in my last life I should have given Cui Zhao a bowl of medicine too. Who told him to marry me like a mute, then completely ignore me afterward, allowing his aunt to bully me and making me suffer for so long. It seems I was still too kind-hearted. Thinking of this, I suddenly jumped up from the kneeling cushion, my face full of excitement as I looked at Chen Qingyue. Elder sister, do you know where I can buy poison? Chen Qingyu blinked, as if she hadn't processed my question yet. After a long pause, she finally answered, be good. If your future husband treats you badly, elder sister will poison him for you. Don't dirty your own hands. She took my hand and smiled gently. Xuanzhang's hands are meant for painting. Chen Qingyu was never one to stay idle. She knew that tonight was the emperor's birthday banquet. Not only was a grand feast being held inside the palace, but the common people in the capital had also been allowed to celebrate freely these past few days. There were all kinds of rare performances and fireworks that were seldom seen on ordinary days. So she decided to take me wall climbing and sneak out to have some fun. Even though it was already evening, there was no curfew during the birthday celebrations. The common citizens could stroll at night, and the streets were bustling with excitement and filled with every kind of entertainment. Storytellers, opera singers, the entire street was incredibly lively. After watching a puppet show with Chen Qingye, we ran off to watch wrestling matches. I bought her a flower lantern, and she bought me a painted candy figure. It was going well until a strange man bumped into my shoulder as he passed by. Afterward, my money pouch was gone. Chen Qingye and I exchanged a glance, then immediately shouted thief, and chased after him. The capital had many narrow alleys lining both sides of the main roads. We turned left and right repeatedly. By the time I realized what was happening, I had followed him into a dark alley. The surroundings were pitch black, making one's heart fill with fear. The man stopped running. He turned around and smiled at me, casually tossing my money pouch in his hand. Little lady, judging from your luxurious clothes, you probably don't care about this small amount of silver. But since you insist on chasing me, don't blame me for selling you off. As he spoke, 4 burly men stepped out from the alley behind him. Each of them was over 8 feet tall, holding wooden clubs, their eyes hostile as they advanced on me step by step. Even though I had lived another life, I was still a sheltered young miss who had never encountered such dirty business. Facing the 5 human traffickers before me, my heart was extremely tense. Seeing them raise their clubs to strike, I instinctively turned and ran. At the same time, the sound of footsteps on roof tiles came from above, and a man in white clothes leaped down from the eaves. The sword in his hand had not even been drawn from its sheath, yet with just a few moves he knocked all 5 traffickers to the ground. I turned my head to look, and saw the man standing some distance away with his hands clasped behind his back, smiling at me. Shuangyu, it's been a long time. Wenjian. When I clearly saw the person in front of me, I couldn't help crying out in surprise. The Wen family lived right next to ours. We were practically neighbors. When we were young and there was no need for strict separation between boys and girls, Wenjian and I often played together. He had been mischievous since childhood, climbing roofs, flipping tiles, teasing cats and dogs. He caused trouble every single day, giving people even more headaches than Chen Qingye. Back then, the 2 families were close, and our parents had even discussed arranging a childhood betrothal between me and Wenzan. But before I came of age, Wenjian had run off to the border. He said he wanted to fight on the battlefield, achieve great merits, and become a celebrated great general. It had been years since he left. Seeing Wenjian again filled my heart with joy, yet we were no longer as close and casual as we had been as children. Fortunately, Chen Qingyu finally caught up. The moment she saw me, she rushed over and hugged me tightly, her voice still laced with lingering fear. You disappeared in the blink of an eye just now. I was so afraid something had happened to you. I ran into the traffickers, but thankfully Wenjian saved me. Hearing my words, Chen Qingyu finally noticed Wenjian standing in front of us. Her eyes filled with pleasant surprise. Oh little brat, you've finally returned from the border. Wenjian smiled and nodded. He was about to say something when the hairpin from Chen Qingyue's bun suddenly fell to the ground, landing right beside his foot. Wenjian bent down, picked it up and handed it back to her. Thank you. Chen Qingyue reached out to take it. She was about to say something more when Cui Zhao suddenly appeared out of nowhere, his face deathly pale. What are you all doing? Chen Qingyue turned to look at him and couldn't help frowning. Cui Zhao stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the hairpin in Chen Qingyue's hand. For a moment he seemed to want to speak but held back. In the end, he couldn't restrain himself. First, young Miss Chen, if others find out you accepted jewelry from an unrelated man, I'm afraid it will damage your reputation. Chen Qingyu curled her lips, finding it somewhat amusing. Leaving aside the fact that the hairpin was originally hers, even if she had truly accepted something, what right did an outsider like Cui Zhao have to be dissatisfied? Cui Zhao noticed the mockery in her eyes, and hurriedly added, no matter what, my father caught your ball. Our two families can be considered connected by fate now. I cannot treat myself as a complete outsider. I only wish to protect the young Mrs.'s reputation, that's all. So you're doing this for my own good? Chen Qingyu nodded. Seeing the hopeful light in his eyes, she suddenly asked, has your father arrived yet? The light in Cui Zhao's eyes dimmed instantly. Cui Mingyi walked over. When he saw Chen Qingyi, his gaze showed clear avoidance. Chen Qingyi, however, smiled and walked to his side. Tonight is so lively. Why don't Duke Sui accompany me to enjoy the Lantern Festival? There have been many human traffickers in the capital these days. You wouldn't want to see me get kidnapped by bad people, would you? With that, Chen Qingyu strode off. Perhaps afraid she would encounter trouble, Cui Mingyi had no choice but to hurry after her. In the blink of an eye, only Wenjian, Cui Zhao, and I remained in the alley. I looked at Wenjian. What my elder sister said makes sense. There have been many traffickers lately. Would young General Wen be willing to accompany me to see the Lantern Festival? Wenjian smiled and nodded, stepping toward me. Just then, Cui Zhao, who had remained silent until now, suddenly moved in front of me. He looked at me, his eyes revealing a vague trace of worry. The capital has been unstable these past few days. First, young Miss Chen has a lively personality and probably won't stay obediently in the rear courtyard. I hope, second, young Miss Chen will watch over her more carefully and not let anything happen to her. She is my elder sister. I care more about her safety than you do. There's no need for an outsider like you to remind me. My words were not polite at all. Cui Zhao fell silent for a moment. His voice was very soft. I just don't want anything to happen to her. Do you like my elder sister that much? Cui Zhao nodded. I like her very much. Ever since she appeared before me like a little fairy, I have liked her. It seems your eyes have a problem. You even mistook the person. I couldn't help shaking my head. Then I left with Wenjian, leaving Cui Zhao standing there alone, looking dazed. But before I could step out of the alley, Cui Ming came running back, panting heavily, his face full of anxiety. The moment he saw me, he asked, has first young Miss Chen come to find you? Hearing this, my heart sank. Elder sister didn't go enjoy the Lantern Festival with you? Where is she? Did you lose her? Cui Zhao, who was not far away, heard the commotion and quickly ran over. Cui Ming's eyes were filled with guilt. Just now, first young Miss Chen and I had a disagreement. She stormed off in anger. The streets were crowded, and in the blink of an eye she was gone. Don't panic. Elder sister is very smart. Nothing will happen to her. Let's split up and search for her. I was a little flustered, but I knew panicking was useless. It would be better to calm down and search in different directions. It would be faster. But the moment I finished speaking, Cui Zhao rushed forward with a cold face and questioned me. Chen Shuangyu, the capital has been unstable lately with many human traffickers. Your father must have warned both you and the first young miss, yet you still went out at night without bringing a single servant. I thought you were more steady than your lively elder sister, and asked you to look after her. I never expected you would indulge her and let her run out. Now she's missing too. Hearing his accusation, I felt both angry and amused. Cui Zhao, Chen Qingyue is my elder sister. This is a family matter. What does it have to do with you? Even if there is some connection, the person my elder sister is interested in is Duke Ku. If she marries into the Kui family in the future, she will be your mother. According to seniority, you should call me aunt. Treating your aunt like this isn't that extremely disrespectful. Filial piety could crush a person. Before the ball incident was resolved, Cui Mingge and Chen Qingyue were still in an unconfirmed engagement, so I was naturally his aunt. Being disrespectful to one's elders was a serious offense. My words made Cui Zhao's face turn ashen. He stared at me coldly. Chen Shuangyu, your elder sister is missing and you're still standing here speaking so coldly. You truly are heartless and cold-blooded. I refused to back down and retorted, you're the one who is blind and foolish. Rather than arguing with me here, you should hurry and look for her. If my elder sister really ran into traffickers, she could be in great danger. Hearing this, Cui Zhao's expression changed drastically. He no longer wanted to waste time with me. After that, the four of us split into 3 groups and began searching for my elder sister. We searched until dawn, when Zhan and I ended up searching near a cliff in the suburbs. Cui Zhao also arrived there. He sat on a large rock, looking somewhat lonely, then took out that old yellowed painting from his chest. All these years I have been searching for her. Even though 10 years have passed and her appearance has changed greatly, I still recognized her. I don't ask for anything else. I only hope that Qingyu can live a safe and smooth life. But why won't heaven even grant me this small wish? Wen Zhan stood beside him listening, then looked at the painting in his hand, unable to hide his curiosity. So you like Chen Qingyue because of this painting? Cui Zhao nodded. As if lost in memory, he began muttering the old story. She drew this painting herself to comfort me. I have treasured it dearly all this time. Wait. You said this painting was drawn by Chen Qingyue? Wen Zhan frowned. When we were young we often played together. Neither he nor Qingyu liked studying, let alone painting. Whenever they picked up a brush, they would only draw turtles and crabs on each other. The only one who could draw such a beautiful portrait was me. Wen Zhan couldn't help glancing toward me. He seemed to want to say something but held back. Instead he asked indirectly, so do you like the person in the painting? Or the person who painted it? Is there a difference? Cui Zhao didn't understand. Aren't they both Qingyu? Wen Zhan smiled awkwardly, then glanced at me without showing anything before continuing. If the person in the painting were someone else, would you like that other person too? Cui Zhao denied it firmly. The person I like is the little girl who comforted me in the artificial mountain. Even if she drew a heavenly fairy, the one I like is still her alone. Wen Zhan said nothing more, and neither did I. Some things were better left hidden forever. In this life, I had no intention of getting entangled with Cui Zhao again. Chen Qingyue had indeed run into the human traffickers. But she was clever. She had jumped out of the carriage midway and hidden in the dense forest on the outskirts. However, the traffickers pursued her relentlessly and finally forced her to the edge of the cliff. Cui Mingyi arrived just in time, but it was too late. The two of them rolled down the cliff together. Fortunately, although the cliff was steep, it was covered with many vines. Cui Mingyi held her tightly and swung on the vines into a mountain cave. The two of them spent the entire night in the cave. When dawn broke, Wen Zhan, Cui Zhao and I left the city and searched the suburbs. Cui Mingyi heard our voices from inside the cave and called out loudly. Only then did we realize they had fallen down the cliff. We quickly sent people to fetch ropes and pulled them out of the cave. Both families had prepared soft sedan chairs. When they returned, they still needed to call a physician to take their pulses. At the moment of parting, Chen Qingyu spoke up once more. Cui Mingyi, I'll ask you one last time, will you marry me? No one knew what had happened between them during the night. Previously, Cui Mingyi had avoided Chen Qingyu like a mouse avoiding a cat. Now it was the opposite. The tips of his ears were slightly red as he asked in return, I am much older than you, and my personality is rather dull. The only things I can give you are companionship and ordinary gold and silver. I also have a son who is about your age. Have you really thought all of this through? Are you still willing to marry me? Chen Qingyu smiled, her smile exceptionally radiant. What a coincidence. I happen to only need companionship. I like ordinary gold and silver. I'm quite afraid of pain, so having a ready-made son is perfect. As soon as she finished speaking, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. Only Cui Zhao stood to the side with a heart like dead ashes. He was the son. He could not interfere in his father's decision to marry, and so the marriage was decided just like that. Mother's face remained cold as she went to the temple to pray. When she returned, she brought back a protective talisman. She repeatedly reminded Chen Qingyu to carry it with her at all times. I already said this year was not suitable for you to marry, yet it still ended up like this. We won't stop you since you've made up your mind, but I hope this talisman can keep you safe. After the wedding, everything went smoothly. A trace of tears glistened in Chen Qingyu's eyes as she carefully put the talisman away. The wedding date was set very soon, only 2 months later. There were many preparations to make. I followed mother every day, busy from morning till night. The 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Chen Qingyu was finally about to marry. On the day of her wedding, before the sky had even brightened, I went to her room and stood to the side watching the maids do her makeup. The wedding dress hung on a rack nearby. Chen Qingyu sat before the bronze mirror, looking at her reflection with immense joy. I, on the other hand, felt a little sad. Once she married and left, I would be the only one left to kneel in the ancestral hall. Then you should marry soon too, Qingyu said. I think Wenjian is quite good. When we were small he loved playing with you. Later when we read storybooks, you said you liked a great general who fights on distant battlefields, and he immediately ran off to the battlefield. Shuang, I won't say anything else. I know Wenjian's background well. He is far better than those young masters in the capital. If you like him too, don't hesitate. After speaking, Chen Qingyu pointed at a small porcelain bottle in her arms. If he dares betray you or bully you, what I have in my hand can take his life. The moment she finished speaking, a small sound came from the window like a pebble. The stone hit the back of Chen Qingyue's neck. Her eyes widened, and her body went limp as she collapsed in front of the dressing table. I immediately turned my head and saw Cui Zhao dressed entirely in black. He had somehow sneaked into the courtyard. The maids doing the makeup and the matchmaker had both been knocked unconscious by him. Cui Zhao stepped into the room and looked at the unconscious Chen Qingyu. His eyes could not hide the tenderness in them. No one understands my father better than I do. He is a good man, but he may not be a good husband. If Qingyu marries him, she will probably suffer in the future, so I've come to kidnap the bride. I stared at him fixedly. He smiled, turned around, grabbed the wedding dress beside us and tossed it into my arms. It's too late to kidnap the real bride, and it would ruin her reputation. I can only wrong second young Miss Chen. In the future, once you become my nominal mother, I will definitely respect you as repayment for today's kindness. I was terrified beyond words. Even my voice trembled. How dare you? He didn't want Chen Qingyu to suffer, but today's wedding had already been set. If any accident occurred, people would only say Chen Qingyue's bazi, astrological birth chart, was unlucky. Because this world had always been harsh toward women, the only solution was to substitute one for another. It would still be a daughter of the Chen family getting married, just a different person. I'm sorry. I don't want to harm anyone, but I must protect Qingyu. Cui Zhao gave me no chance to escape. He practiced martial arts. He suddenly swung his hand and struck the side of my neck. I immediately lost consciousness. I don't know how much time passed before I woke up. I felt everything swaying around me, and everything before my eyes was a deep crimson red. I reached up and pulled the bridal veil down. At the same time, the bridal sedan stopped. Without hesitation, I lifted the curtain and jumped down. A large crowd had gathered in front of the Cui mansion. Cui Zhao was among them. When he saw me awake, he looked extremely shocked. It seemed his martial arts were not yet precise enough. He hadn't calculated the exact time I would regain consciousness. He hurried forward. Chen Shuangyu, the bridal sedan has already brought you to my residence. Everything is set in stone now. Even if you say right now that you are not the one who was supposed to marry, no one will believe you. Because today the Chen family was only marrying off one daughter. He used a woman's reputation to threaten me, wanting me to endure and accept this marriage. So I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. I truly regret ever comforting you. Hearing my words, his eyes filled with confusion. He was about to speak when Chen Qingyu also came running over, her expression frantic as she rushed to my side. Shuang, are you all right? I shook my head lightly. Chen Qingyu immediately pulled me into her arms, then turned to look at Cui Zhao. How could you do something like this? Cui Zhao looked extremely aggrieved. Qingyu, I did everything for you. I hope you can be happy. Don't you understand? So you harmed my little sister instead? Chen Qingyu looked at him coldly, her eyes as if poisoned. I had no other choice. I had to protect you first. Cui Zhao lowered his head, looking utterly helpless, as if he weren't the one who had done wrong. Chen Qingyu shook her head, then gently stroked my face, her heart aching terribly. My silly little sister, you never should have drawn that painting for him, back then. The moment those words left her mouth, Cui Zhao looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He asked urgently, What do you mean? What do you mean? She drew that painting for me. Didn't she draw that painting back then? I have never liked holding a brush since I was small. How could I have drawn myself so beautifully? It was my little sister. My little sister draws the best. Chen Qingyu held my hand. After speaking, she wanted to take me home. Cui Zhao refused to let her. He blocked my path. Chen Shuangyu, the one who comforted me back then, was you. I looked at him coldly. I would rather have never comforted you. This matter had already caused a huge scandal. When Cui Mingye found out, he was so furious he used the family discipline. Cui Zhao was beaten until his flesh was torn and bloodied, left with only one breath. Mother sighed endlessly, repeatedly saying, I already said this year was not suitable for Qingyu to marry, and in the end something still happened. Chen Qingyu maintained her usual carefree appearance. She only felt heartache for me. Cui Mingke didn't dare back out of the marriage with my sister. It was merely that the wedding had been delayed a little. But after such a big commotion, no one knew what would become of my poor little sister in the future. This world was harsh on women. I had already worn the wedding dress and nearly married someone. Just that alone meant no respectable young master would want to marry me. They would think I was unlucky. What is there to fear? At worst, I won't marry at all and just stay at home with father and mother. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Don't talk nonsense. Mother smacked me on the head, her expression serious. If you don't marry, the people in the capital will talk. One sentence after another will eventually drown you. Then who should I marry? Chen Qingyu frowned. Before she could think of an answer, the steward hurriedly ran over and announced, "The Wen family has come to propose marriage for their son." "Marry whom? Second young miss." Chen Qingyu smiled. "Shuang, I told you, he likes you." I didn't answer. I only went to meet Wen Zhan. I asked him, "Do you like me?" He blushed and nodded. I asked again, "Then can you promise that in this lifetime you will never favor concubines over your wife, and will never let any concubine bully me?" Men's promises were never trustworthy. I had many older and younger sisters. Before marriage, their husbands all made wonderful vows, but in the end they still took concubine after concubine. That was still tolerable. There were some who didn't know their place and let their concubines climb over the principal wife's head, making life truly miserable. I naturally don't want to live like that either. Wen Zhan nodded again. "Rest assured, in this life I will only have you. I will never take any concubines. If I break my word, may heaven and earth destroy me. If that's the case, then I'll take the gamble too." Mother chose another auspicious day so that I could marry on the same day as my sister. Wen Zhan and I bowed to heaven and earth and became husband and wife. But before we could enter the bridal chamber, Cui Zhao arrived. He walked with unsteady steps, carrying that old yellowed painting, wanting to see me. I threw a lit taper at it. The flame quickly devoured the painting. He frantically tried to put out the fire with his hands, but he couldn't save it in the end. Both his hands were burned, covered in blisters. He sat on the ground and cried as he asked me why I could be so cruel. Why didn't I love him? "You are so blind and foolish that you don't even know who you truly like. What right do you have to accuse me of being heartless?" In my previous life, I had respected him like a guest. Although I didn't love him, I never hated him either. But in this life, I truly despised him to the extreme. "Cui Zhao, your heart is so vicious. No one will ever love you." I spoke extremely cruel words to him. He cried even more miserably. Chen Qingyu said, "We absolutely cannot give Cui Zhao any chance to bully you." So after the wedding, she gave birth to a son, whispered a few words while he lay on the pillow, and the position of heir was changed. Cui Zhao was sent by Chen Qingyu to the countryside to farm and was forbidden from ever returning. He had nearly ruined me. As his stepmother, I naturally would not spare him. Afterward, I lived a very long period of happiness. Wen Zhan always treated me very well. When he learned of trouble at the border, he went to the battlefield. I waited at home for him for 3 years, but he brought back an orphan girl, saying her background was extremely pitiful, and he wanted to keep her in the house as his honored concubine. I said nothing. A man's words were never trustworthy to begin with, but he indulged her far too much. When I went out to enjoy the scenery, she pushed me into the water, and I caught a severe cold that lasted many days. When I was sleeping in my room, she set a fire and nearly burned me to death inside. Every single time, Wen Zhan told me to endure it. I did not forget Chen Qingyu's words: if a man wouldn't listen, then just poison him to death. Later I became the old matriarch of the general's mansion. I adopted 2 children as heirs, and spent my days happily holding my grandchildren. Life could not have been more comfortable. As for Cui Minghe, he died in less than 2 years, poisoned by Chen Qingyu's own hand. She sighed and said, "I thought I had chosen carefully and picked the best man. I never expected him to be a pervert." Although there were no concubines or chambermaids in the household, he kept a large estate outside where he imprisoned many young girls to satisfy his own twisted pleasures. He truly was not human. Fortunately, I carried out justice on behalf of heaven, and those poor young ladies were able to return to their families. As for Cui Zhao, I heard he got married while living in the countryside. The woman was said to have 7/10 resemblance to me. Chen Qingye went there herself and discovered that the woman had no idea she was merely a substitute. She had poured her entire sincere affection into the wrong person. How pitiful. Chen Qingye also gave her a packet of medicine. Whether she would use it or not would be up to her.